Malcolm, we've gone statewide. News and Observer, give it up.
Hey guys, J. Mike Blake here from the News and Observer, just, right down the road in Raleigh.
The best coverage of high school and college athletics in Northeast North Carolina begins now. This is NENC Sports Radio Show on WRVS 89.9.
Must be hard being the JMB.
I'm not the notorious JMB, though. That may be going. That title may go to someone else, but it's good to be with you guys. Glad to be here.
We sure are excited to have you here as our guest of the Welcome In, episode 28 of the third season of Northeastern North Carolina's top sports talk show. Malcolm Shields and myself, Owen Hassel, with you as always. As we've hinted, of course, we have a guest who is as well versed as anyone about high school athletics in the state. That's why we're all so excited about this episode. It's J. Mike Blake, Mr. Preps Now for the Raleigh News and Observer. How's playoff season going for you?
It's been pretty hectic. I'm glad that we're slowing things down here, and I think I'm still about a couple Saturdays away from not having to work on a Saturday, so I'm going to really enjoy that. But it's been one thing after another here in the month of February, and it's been fun. But I've been all over the state. I feel like, except for your corner of the woods, it's the only place I really hadn't had to travel to this winter.
Well, we hope to change that at some point in the coming years.
Yeah.
But we're going to definitely talk a lot more to Mike about a number of things going on in high school athletics. First, for more on Northeastern North Carolina sports, follow us on Twitter. Also use the hashtag NENC Sports to keep the discussion rolling. You can follow us at NENC Sports. Then for me, I'm at ONOBX. Malcolm?
I'm at Malcolm_Shields.
Mike, I believe you have Twitter?
Yeah, at JMV Preps.
Easy enough. And there's
at Preps Now. I run both accounts.
You got a bunch of accounts. This is very true. I can't keep up with you. You probably can't keep up with it yourself sometimes. A lot going on. And there's more ways to stay involved with sports in Northeastern North Carolina in the form of a blog. Go to nencsports.wordpress.com for interviews, video, and extra analysis from various Northeastern North Carolina games. We'll be back after this.
Like our Facebook page and give us your questions and comments. Find us at facebook.com/NENC Sports.
Discover graduate education at Elizabeth City State University. ECSU currently offers 4 graduate degree programs: elementary education, biological sciences, school administration, and mathematics. To learn more, contact the Office of Graduate Education at 252-335-3947 or online at ecsu.edu.
Making my way downtown, walking fast, faces pass and I'm homebound.
Malcolm, I was very inspired by Perquimans catcher Jalen Prince. This was a song he uses as walk-up.
Very nice.
Yes. It's easy for the kids to use the rap, the R&B, hard rock, new country, whatever you want to call it. So kudos to you, sir, for the 1,000 Miles Vanessa Carlton.
Absolutely hat tip.
Oh, it very much so. I enjoy when kids go outside the box. Mm-hmm. You know me and my song selection. Mm-hmm. So if I hear something outside the box, I'm all kinds of excited about that. Basketball in the NENC done for 2016-17 after Tuesday's 4th round. Plymouth girls lost at home to Pamlico. Same for Bertie girls against Bartlett Yancey. Then Hertford County boys downed at a really good Green Central team. Mr. Blake, I know you cover basketball, all 4 classifications. So now that we're into the regional finals, what are your picks? Who's going to state championships, 1A through 4A? Who's going to Chapel Hill?
Let's see. Well, looking at 4A, it really feels like we've got 2 teams of destiny here in Wake County. Lethal Road boys, just the road warriors that they've been. They've won on the road in every round. They were the 17 overall seed, so they've been on the road for each game. It just feels like things are opening up for them. They don't have the biggest or the best win-loss records, but they did play the toughest schedule of any public school in North Carolina, according to Max Preps. So I feel like they will beat South Central, even though they're a very good team that's also in the News and Observer area. And 4A girls is Southeast Raleigh. They're undefeated, nationally ranked. They've been knocked off by Millbrook a few times in the past few seasons. It feels like this is also their destiny to win that game. I would not be surprised to see, as far as 3A, you've got Northern Guilford girls are going to get back to the title game. And then I would say I would go with Eastern Guilford boys to get there as well. They just knocked off one of our teams, a really good Northern Nash team. And if you win in Northern Nash in a sold-out gym with no air conditioning, I think you're a pretty tough team. So I think a lot of Eastern Guilford after winning that game. 2A, I definitely think it's Clinton and Green Central. They've been so dominant all year long. Clinton has just embarrassed very good teams in this playoff run. And then, even though I guess Clinton played tonight, didn't they? But yeah, I do think Clinton will go on. And then 1A, I'm going to have to go with our local teams, Kester Heights and Roxborough Community, to get to the title game there as well. 2 charter schools. Kestrel Heights has only lost once this year. Roxborough Community actually lost to Plymouth in the East Final last year, and I think this year they're going to take it one step further.
Now, I want to mention Kestrel Heights because there's a lot of talk about the school being shut down after this year. Is that still a thing? Is that still a possibility?
The actual vote is actually, it could come up this week if they pushed it back from February, and the charter school board is meeting March 5th. So that vote could actually come right before the game. And, you know, it's a really, really weird situation. A lot of people I've talked to don't see that there's any other way to go about it, that the high school portion of the school will probably be shut down after this year. So it's really an odd thing. And we've had charter schools in the association that's been threatened with this in the past, but they've always done something to get in compliance. But what happened at Kester Heights was so unprecedented, where you had a high number of graduates who were graduating without having taken certain courses, like a PE or a second language, just very elementary things that a guidance counselor should have noticed and caught and informed the students. Students had no idea. It wasn't that they were fixing grades, but it was just this, like almost a third of the graduates over the last couple of years have graduated without meeting the state requirements for certain courses being taken. So it's going to be very hard for the board to let something like that happen, even though there's a completely new administration there now and they self-reported. Most people I talk to feel like the charter board is pretty strict, and they will want to send a message that this cannot happen without the ultimate penalty. So that's a very, very weird storyline. Here we have a school that, you know, I guess you can, in the old days, you know, when a lot of these schools have consolidated, we know there the last year, like Williamston, Roanoke, like those storylines could have also been around at that time, like the last playoff push in school history. But this one just is happening for different reasons, and it's definitely a unique time in the association.
This is like a Southern Methodist situation.
Yeah,
almost from here.
You feel bad for the kids because obviously they haven't done anything wrong on this end, and they're getting kind of, a lot of the stories are conflated. Like there was grade changing a few years back at Terry Sanford to keep kids eligible. This has nothing to do with eligibility as much as it was just being sloppy administration. So, you know, it's not like these kids got 1.4 GPAs and they've been changed to keep them eligible. What was happening is right now you had some seniors who had to change their course load going into this year because they realized that the previous guidance counselor had not given them the right advice on which courses to take. So it's very, very weird to see a school get shut down, which it might very well happen.
Well, you know, back to basketball, of course. Malcolm, I'm not taking anything away from Hertford County because they won the Northeastern Coastal regular season, swept Northeastern in the process. But if you put Northeastern in that game against Green Central, I still think Green Central wins. We're probably in agreement with that. But does Northeastern match up better?
They have the athletes, but I just think in terms of the small details, which is something that they struggle with all season, I don't think that they mastered that enough consistently this year that they could keep it close with Green Central.
Yeah. Well, nevertheless, when you talk about Hertford County, a pretty good 16-17 season for them. Football got to the third round, basketball to the fourth. But with Bertie, losing the girls, and then obviously Hertford County boys. It did end a small but important streak for the Northeastern Coastal Conference. You had at least one team, Malcolm, reach a regional final in the past 3 seasons. Last winter, Northeastern boys basketball. Then spring, you had Edenton baseball. This past fall, Edenton football, First Flight boys soccer, and they both, of course, went to state championships. And the Nighthawks ended up winning it all. Their 3rd time in the state championship in 4 years. Just as impressive as we've said many times, any team, any program in the Northeast corner. I was surprised this many teams made the 4th round, because it looked apparent that there was really no dominant team this year. Same ideas here.
I guess you could say that, especially on the girls' side, because Bertie was the dominant team, and then there was a consistent drop off after the Lady Falcons. But again, with basketball, it always comes out with matchups, and you got to give credit to Hertford County, making that run to get as far as they did.
Yeah, Mike, I know you extended the coverage area for News Observer to include a lot of eastern North Carolina counties, and I think Malcolm was actually talking about how wrong it is to not get us into the mix. I mean, I understand, Malcolm, that's really bad of you to say that. You even questioned his writing ability. I thought that was wrong as well. So I had to come to your defense on that. I mean, you need to tell him directly, but that's your problem. I mean, you're a grown man. Anyway, what stands out to you about athletics in Eastern North Carolina since you've gotten a chance to get down into a lot of Eastern counties?
I think with Eastern North Carolina, it's been great to expand our coverage area. For those who don't know, like pre-2007, and I started here in 2008, but before those days, the News Observer considered its area basically almost everything to the coast. We're talking about New Bern, Havelock, Kinston, schools like that would line up in the area rankings. And a lot of those counties really, in the last, since that time, since they kind of restricted the area to mostly just a triangle, those schools have been begging us to come back and provide at least some coverage, cover the big games, the rivalry games, the playoff games, and we've been welcomed out with open arms. I think what I enjoy, the most will be this spring, because I feel like in Eastern North Carolina counties, it's very much baseball, softball. You're going to have a lot of outstanding track athletes, as I've already kind of found out from indoor track. And that's what I'm really excited about doing again this year. My baseball rankings have a ton of Eastern North Carolina teams, all who won 18, 20 games last year. Number 1 in softball is CB Aycock out of Wayne County. Number 2 is D.H. Conley out of Greenville. And that to me is stood out as well as just how much talent they have in these spring sports, and how much we've really had to account for them, how much they've welcomed us since we have opened it back up.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the spring season, because, of course, it's already here. Began on Monday, and then a nod to the massiveness that is the Coastal 5000 Conference. I call it Coastal 10, but so many friggin' teams in this conference. Baseball and softball have already started league play. That began Tuesday. They go right into it. Maybe they get the one non-conference game a day before, and they sprinkle in some non-conference here and there, but you just don't have time for it. And even more so in the spring, just one day of rain, and here we go, and you're done. So Camden and Perquimans baseball and softball winning with ease on Tuesday. I got to see the Pirates host Manteo, and this is a Redskins team that could challenge for the conference title. Should. A lot of players back. Coach Alfie Wheeler for Manteo, he's a former player for the Redskins, and obviously a good coach in his own right. Still a young guy and going to do some big things on Roanoke Island. But on Tuesday, it was no such situation like that. I mean, Manteo's had a few injuries, I've heard, and they struggled. This was their first game. It was Perquimans' second game. They'd beaten First Flight the day before, which was already impressive, and Perquimans beats Manteo 13-0 in 5 innings. It was very quick, very, very quick. And then I go over to the softball field. Lady Pirates beat Manteo 13-2. This is, Mike, you were talking about teams that are high on your list from Eastern North Carolina that could make state championship bids. This team is high on my list from the Northeast corner to make that run to a state championship. Princeton has clipped them the last 2 years in the fourth round. I believe Princeton lost a core group of girls. You could help me out on that. That seemed to be at the forefront for Princeton. So that could pave the way, too, for a team like Perquimans. But I see where Perquimans, the only thing that could hurt Perquimans would be Perquimans at this point. They're that solid. They've got a number of players back. They've got some young talent coming up. Baseball and softball is a big thing in Perquimans.
Just a bit.
It's an understatement. When you have a baseball Hall of Famer come from your area, that's going to be the case. Malcolm, who's on your list? Who would be some teams?
For the spring, you got to go with Currituck softball. They've got a lot of core girls back. You got to think they're going to make a run. Also, Edenton baseball. They got to the East Regional Final. You got to think that those guys got a lot of veteran guys coming back that they're going to be motivated to make another run at it.
Yeah. I'm going to put First Flight girls soccer in the conversation. They got to the regional final last year until they played one of the schools in Mike's area there, Carborough. I don't think anyone stops Carborough again, though. I think I was reading your preview, Mike, that 2 players going to UNC from Carborough, another for Duke.
Yeah, that's right. And they've pretty much lost, I think they had 3 seniors on last year's team total. And none of them were your all-state. None of them were all-state. None of them were the headliners. So, yeah, you've got 2 girls going to Carolina, another girl going to Duke, and then there's 2 other all-state players. And then there's another girl that was second on the team in scoring, so who was not even all-state. So they are loaded. They are as talented as any of our 4A teams. And I'm interested. They're playing a lot of 4A teams this year. Usually they only play a few area schools and teams that are right in there, right around the town limits there, Chapel Hill, East Chapel Hill. This year they're playing some Raleigh powerhouses, Middle Creek, who was 4A runner-up last year, Leesville Road, that's good year in, year out. They are, and last year I remember, or in the fall, I remember First Flight just being a buzzsaw for all our area teams in boys soccer. It would be really neat if Carborough and First Flight meet up again in girls soccer, especially with the way the seeding works, because Carborough could have some losses. They could also not, because like I said, they're as talented as 4A teams, but they're playing enough 4A games where they could have a few losses and First Flight would get to host if those 2 teams, which right now kind of seem almost destined to play in that 2A East Final. So that's something that'll be interesting to track all spring long, I think.
See, then that gives you the chance to go to Kill Level Hills.
Yeah.
You get to see the field. You get to see the monument. It's right there. All the good stuff.
Absolutely. You have to take on a little bit of a tour, in your neck of the woods. But I would absolutely be all over that game.
Yeah. And First Flight could have a couple losses. I don't know their schedule exactly, but usually they try to play some tough teams early on. That means in this corner you play teams of Virginia. You play top teams in Norfolk and in Virginia Beach and those areas that are what they call like 5A and 6A in Virginia and have about 2,000 students, or Cape Henry, which is a good private school in Virginia. So they could end up having 2 or 3 losses themselves. I don't see any losses in the conference. Currituck is pretty good. Mm-hmm. They did meet in the 4th round last year, but First Flight's got everybody back. I mean, almost all of their starters were either freshmen or sophomores. And it's just, when you talk about soccer in Dare County, you talk big things. It's just, soccer is a big deal in Dare County. And lacrosse is becoming a big deal in Dare County. I don't know if it's the transplants from up north that have come and moved down and they enjoy those sports more than others. It's just how it's evolved. Maybe it's a beach thing, but soccer in Dare County is just blown up. And yeah, I just don't see anybody else. I mean, I know the Onslow County schools always have good soccer. But last year, Currituck took Dixon to the woodshed. That's Currituck.
I remember it was raining. I think
it was raining. Yeah. It was a nasty day, and it was at Dixon. And it goes from like 2-2 to like 5-2 in no time in the second half. And Currituck's can be very good. And they lost 2 or 3 seniors, of course. Sydney Phillips being a big cog, but they're going to be just as good. Once again, First Flight and Carborough will be exciting because I do think they'll meet up at some point in the playoffs. And Mike, should Carborough be considered a charter school or prep school? I mean, this school, I'm kind of kidding, but they're in a nice spot, small town in the middle of a metro area. it seems like they win state titles in a number of sports. I was there when Carborough played Currituck in the East Regional Final, and I knew Currituck's going to have to play one heck of a match volleyball-wise to hang. I think Destiny Cox is the hitter I remember for Carborough. It's going to UNC.
You're right. Yeah. She was MVP of the state title match as well.
Just unbelievable talent they got at that school. How come?
Yeah, it has to do with location, and also for whatever reason, when Chapel Hill Carborough City Schools is its own district. It's disconnected from the other two high schools in the county, Orange and Cedar Ridge. And for whatever reason, when they built Carborough, maybe because there's not a lot of land there in Carborough left. It's kind of in the center or kind of in the middle of the neighborhood, and it's very small. Like, it really cannot hold much more than 900 students. For some reason, that did not really help the overcrowding at the other two schools, Chapel Hill, East Chapel Hill. But what it did do is ensure that this school is going to be 2A, and it's going to have Chapel Hill level talent, because it's all in the same school district. You've got, like Destiny Cox, for instance, is an example of, I think her dad's like a Chapel Hill assistant coach, or has been a Chapel Hill or a UNC assistant coach. And this is his daughter, and she's really talented. She's going to a 2A school that you don't find in a whole lot of places. And that's, they're not great in everything. They had a really tough season, last couple of years in like football and basketball. But because of that Chapel Hill kind of influence, and because the school wasn't built very big at all, they're just going to be a 2A powerhouse in so many different things.
It almost makes me reflect on a Cardinal Gibbons, even though it's a different situation. They're not a public school. But when Cardinal Gibbons was 2A, their talent in volleyball, which is still great at 4A, was just, it was like girls against women.
Right.
And then they would come to play a good first flight team for 2A or somebody else in 2A and just absolutely blow them out of the water. There was one match where Gibbons had to go to first flight, and near the end of the match, everyone in first flight is chanting, "Stop recruiting." It's loud, it's nasty, and Gibbons players were kind of giving them a little grief, which didn't help things. There's that idea that if you've got this team, and I'm kind of going into the whole charter private school prep situation right now, I guess. If they're 1A or 2A, 1A and 2A schools are for the rural areas. That's really how it's come to be. You already see that there's going to be that. Maybe you don't want to call it recruiting, you want to call it something else. That's fine, but it's going to be there. What is your take on the charter and prep schools being in the State Athletic Association?
I think someone needs to speed up the process of trying to establish what to do with non-traditional schools and how to define them. And come down. It seems like that's the definition of that is what's holding up a very easy step, which would be to have some sort of multiplier put in place, where you would have, maybe I would not be opposed to like moving these schools up one entire class. I know that's a little bit hard if your charter school has 200 kids and you'd be playing on a 2A level, but that's where the multiplier comes into play. But a lot of the success. And being around Cardinal Gibbons, they don't recruit. You've got a lot of wealthy parents in the Triangle who are sending their kids there, and by default, that's a recipe for really good sports and a lot of things. They have not been as successful across the board at 4A as they were in 3A, which again goes back to the multiplier. Gibbons has to be put in 4A, even though they didn't have the numbers, and that is, to me, the blueprint of how we should go about a lot of these things. I think the association would lean towards wanting to use a multiplier. But they would say, well, what about magnet schools? Well, what about open enrollment districts? What about, all these different, education is really different across the board. There are not as many schools anymore that are just, that have a district line and you live here, you go to that school and that's it. But someone needs to figure out what to do with everybody if you're going to lump them all together, which seems to be what the association would like to happen, so that no one says, well, what about me or what about them? And then, we'll try out a multiplier, see how that works. You think about, and you're talking about the rural, and that's a great point. Is the 1A and 2A have so much more of a rural feel, and then you go and look at the future, and 3A is going to be a little bit more like that as well, but it's also going to include some pretty big towns. Starting next year, 3A is going to have a few schools from Greenville, going to have New Hanover out of Wilmington, it's going to have more Fayetteville schools, more Greensboro schools, and I think it's a real fallacy by Charlotte Catholic, who they come in a school that dominated 1A and 2A for years and decades, for them to move back down to 3A and leave 4A 2 years after they won the 4A boys basketball title and the 4A football title. Like that's a huge fallacy. They're going to go into 3A, start winning, and now you're going to make a lot more people mad in very big cities and other, and also the rural schools that are in 3A. Because for me, I think those are, I don't know if you even answered your question all the way, but in order to kind of take that next step, and I think that's what's frustrating a lot of people. It's like, okay, we got to this point. We've talked about why it's a problem. We've talked about, what can be done. Obviously, kicking them out of the association does not seem like it's going to A, pass, B, be a good idea because the state legislature would probably get involved in somehow, as has happened in other states. And so the next step would be use a multiplier. But the thing that's dragging our feet from getting to that point is just defining what a non-traditional school is. Because as you know, the 1A level, a lot of people don't like Winston-Salem Prep. Even though it has that name, it's a public school. It's just in a district where they kind of set up small, Forsyth County Schools set up a small specialty school that was kind of geared towards low-income families in Winston-Salem. And it just so happens they don't have many sports, but they're really good in those few sports, and the same sports that are not your country club sports. And people don't like them. They have a funny name, but they're actually a public school. So you have to have the umbrella that fits all of those kind of teams. And yeah, that's my long-winded answer, and that I hope touched on your question a little bit.
Yeah, the Winston-Salem Prep thing is they can pretty much choose, or anyone from Forsyth County can go to Winston-Salem Prep. Is that right? Yeah,
they do not choose who goes there, but people can choose to come to them.
Right. So you can choose. So there's 500,000 people or whatever, maybe in Forsyth County, something like that. So there's a market of that many for that school. Camden has South Mills and Shiloh. This is the difference. I mean, Old Trap. I mean, these places. Now it might not be recruiting, but that's the difference. And yeah, there's just got to be more discussion on this, and not just discussion, but I think you hit part of this right. Is what's the distinction? What is the schools you want to outline and say, here's what we need to work on? Like there's a lot of work to be done on this. And I don't know if there's a clear answer, because it is something where you're not going to please everybody. We know that. But there's got to be something. There's got to be some type of decision made before it just keeps on going. Like you just said, if the 3As are going to start being like that, then more people are going to take notice. When Cardinal Gibbons was looked to be, there was a vote to kick Cardinal Gibbons out of the State Athletic Association. That wasn't too long ago, but it didn't pass. It didn't even come close. Because a lot of the larger schools at the time thought, well, we don't need to do that. That's harsh. That's not really right. But then when Gibbons starts moving up to 3A and 4A, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of Raleigh conferences said, we don't want you in our conference, and we don't want to play you. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. The ADs wanted to make sure that they didn't play them in any sport, and actually put that into their conference bylaws. What I think they underestimated was the high number of Catholics in Wake County who maybe don't have their kids go to Cardinal Gibbons, but they fully support Cardinal Gibbons. Like, that is the school of their diocese. And how mad those parents were that their taxpayer-funded school was going to say, no, not going to play a member school that is aligned with their diocese. And so the backlash from that was just horrific. And I think that's why they eventually principals got involved, and for a while, all these ADs that I've talked to, and I talked to for that story that broke about the actual ban, is I got the ADs on record. And then like a week later for follow-up, all of a sudden, I have to go through central office, which kind of, which I've never had to do before or since, which kind of lets you know the backlash from that in Wake County. But like you said, I don't think 4A schools have a really big opinion on it. And now they probably do. And that's why I'm not, but at the same time, I think the more schools that enter the association, the harder it is to get that percentage needed to actually make that vote count. So I feel like if it didn't pass then, it's getting less and less likely to do it now, especially if you add charter schools who are not going to vote out Cardinal Gibbons, because they know that they'll be next, even though they're very different animals altogether.
Yeah, I think the idea of anyone being kicked out of the association, I just don't think that's going to happen with anybody. I think that would look so negative upon the state that you talk about the backlash from Catholics in Raleigh. I think this would be the same situation statewide. Why would you do that? Why would you kick a school out? They're just trying to compete. They're just trying to play. You're just upset because they win all the time. You need to get better and you need to win. Well, there's some truth to some of that. But I think the idea of kicking someone, I just don't think that is an option.
Yeah, it's a dead end street when you think about especially, you look at the political landscape. Charter schools are here to stay. School choice is a big topic now that a lot of people really support. So getting rid of any kind of school because they are that kind of school and not because of any kind of wrongdoing is not going to go over well. And I think you would, in another association, I can't remember which one, the state legislature pretty much took over the association. And then you have, your congressmen and state senators setting the rules for your eligibility and setting the rules for this, that, and the other. And I don't think anyone wants to go down that road, just because if that were the case, I don't think it would take too long if the state legislature took over the association, where homeschool kids can play for whatever local high school they want to play for, and all those things that the association right now is against. You would have no buffer against those kind of rules. So that's why it's a dead end street. One thing, I guess, last thing I'll say about it is one state, I believe it's Nevada, did something kind of drastic a few years ago, and they say they've had no backlash against it, which I'm always skeptical that a state says everything's hunky-dory in their state and no schools are mad about something. They said that they took schools and would use a multiplier up or down based on the demographics of the school, based on their free and reduced lunch percentage. And so if you were kind of near the borderline of being a very small 3A, but you were in a non-affluent district, you could probably play at 2A. And so you had teams moving up and down in all sorts of different sports. And I think that's interesting. And I don't think it would work for North Carolina. I think we all get too angry about stuff. And the second you move down the 3A team and they win at 2A, then 2A is going to be really upset and say, see, that team's a 3A anyway. I don't think it would work here. But that's how someone else has tried to get around this problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the type of discussions that need to be had more often throughout the state if there's going to be any progress with it. But here's what we really want to know, though. We want to know your knowledge of the NENC. That's what we want to know. Or better yet, how to pronounce places here.
Oh, gosh, man.
Yes.
I love North Carolina so hard, I'm really self-conscious if I get it wrong.
Well, we're going to find out. I mean, you've already passed the first test. You wear the NENC Sports T-shirt. We've seen it. You've made that clear. You've put it on Twitter, so we know you're wearing it. You're showing it off in Wake County. A lot of jealous people in there, I'm sure. They wonder where that shirt's coming from. What? How'd you get that? That's really cool. I want one.
Absolutely. Drive up sales prices for you guys. Well, charge a little bit more.
I mean, we know, Malcolm. You put the shirt on, your sexy meter goes up 1,000%. That's what happens. That's what happens. These are not alternative facts here, is what I'm telling you. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to spell out a place. And feel free to write it down. Take a couple seconds. And we're going to listen with anticipation if you can get it right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
CONNECTION.
Okay. I mean, it's spelled Corolla. I don't know if that's actually the town in North Carolina.
It's Corolla.
Corolla.
Corolla is the car. Corolla is the place in Currituck County on the Outer Banks.
I was thinking Adam Carolla. See, you messed me up.
See, I didn't know.
Corolla. I will never mess that up again in my life. Good old Corolla.
Well, I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you an easier one now. I thought that one was pretty easy, actually. It's a little. That one's a little tricky if you don't know the area. I get that.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. PERQUMENS.
All right, this one I'm trying to get better at. One of my friends, his wife is from Columbia. She got on me about this one time, so I hope I've got it right now. Perquimans?
Perquimans.
Close.
You know, I was going to go with that. Oh, man. I'm overthinking now.
Malcolm's here going, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I've been through this.
Yeah. We did this to Malcolm, too.
Yes.
Okay. If he didn't get these two, he might not get this one. But we got to do it anyway. It's on the list. Okay. MASHOUS.
I got nothing on that one.
It's Mashoes. Mashoes.
I could not even come close to that. So.
It's a little place on the mainland of Dare County near Mans Harbor.
Oh, wow.
Mashoes. It's spelled like I just spelled it, of course. You just got to think, my shoes. Those are my shoes.
My shoe. Yeah, naturally.
My shoes.
And got to be a good story behind that name.
Yeah.
Am I still invited to
you can come here anytime. You know?
All right, good.
See, that's why we're doing this too. Now you got your studying in, and you'll be just fine.
Like there was a big discussion a few weeks back about how to pronounce topsail. Like, I did totally used to be one of those dudes that said topsail, and never again. Like once you learn how the locals say it in North Carolina, that is correct.
And there are some places where locals can't get it right. So I don't even I don't have that on my list just because there's a couple that I know people that live right in that area and they'll say it one way and someone right down the road says something else. So sometimes it's very tricky. But here's the next one. CHOWAN.
Chowan.
I'll give you that. Chowan, yeah. You got it. There we go.
You have to really say the O.
It's Chowan. Chowan County.
Chowan.
Yeah.
Chowan. Okay.
But I mean that was good. I mean I'm going to go ahead and give you that.
Okay. Well,
Malcolm, how'd you do it the first time?
Chowan.
No, that's not how you said it the first time.
Chowan.
You said Chowan. You went with Chowan.
There we go. Chowan.
You were chowing down.
I knew it wasn't Chowan. I believe you got that part.
We got a couple more here, but SCUPPERNONG.
May I have it in the sentence?
The Scuppernong River, which I already said the dang term, so now you can say it. That was pretty That was pretty good.
Yeah, there we go. It's got a Scuppernong.
There you go. I gave it to him. You would have probably. Well, I'm not even going to ask how you would have pronounced it. But. We're going to give it to him. He tricked me on that one. That was really good. Okay. COLERAIN.
I'm going to go with something like Colerain. I have no idea if I'm right.
It's Colerain. That's
Colerain.
Colerain in Bertie County.
Colerain. Gotcha.
Like cold rain.
Colerain.
It's cold rain.
And that's, yeah.
There's another place there called Allander. And some people will say it and you think it's Orlando. I heard it from a guy the other day. Yeah, get in line around to Orlando. I said, Orlando? Why do I care about that? Orlando. It's like, oh, Allander. Oh, I got you.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, one more. This one could be the trickiest. CASHIE.
CASHIE. I'm gonna go with Cashy.
Kashai River.
That
Also a Bertie
else.
County thing there. Kashai.
I am keeping all these and will never mess them up again. It was really rough. It was rough.
I mean, we got, Perquimans, Pasquotank, Currituck. We got some interesting names here in the corner. And I know it takes a few people someday. Then you got, like in Virginia, you got Accomack, Eastern Shore up in those parts.
Right. Yeah. We don't have too many. I couldn't really give you a good quiz on places around here.
I should have put another one in here for Chickamaucomico. That would have been awesome.
Oh man, I would have
Chickamaucomico.
I would have given up midway through you filling that.
How about CH? All right, forget it. Chickamaucomico. That's the answer. Down on the Outer Banks, Hatteras Island area there. Let's go ahead and take a break. We'll be right back with more Northeastern North Carolina athletics.
WRVS 89.9 provides training for all students and volunteers interested in radio broadcasting. But without your donations, this radio station will go silent. Let's make a sound today. Now is a great time to give back to public radio. Make a tax-deductible donation by calling 252-335-3985 or online at www.ecsu.edu/WRVS.
This has been good, Malcolm. This has been good.
Absolutely informative.
Yeah, very informative. That's why we got to have a statewide guy on the show every so often. You got to hear what's going on in the rest of the state. Sometimes we joke on the show, we're part of Virginia, but we want to be part of North Carolina. I'm a North Carolinian. I'm proud of that. I'm a UNC guy. This is what we're about. So, of course, glad to have. Now, I've been saying Mike. Do you go by J Mike? How do you do that? I know in the paper you say J Mike Blake. How do you call yourself?
It's either Mike or J Mike. It's just not J. As long as it's one of the other two, and that's fine. I mean, there's so many Mikes. I think in college I went to my dorm had like 7 Mikes, so we had to differentiate, and I was the J Mike.
Yeah, as long as you don't drop the mic.
Oh, actually, yeah, that was part of my. I had something like that as a campaign slogan when I ran for school office back in high school. Was that I used a Freeway song back when he was with The Rock and Jay-Z, Rockefeller Records, and I said I got what it takes to rock the mic right, and that was my intro.
Did you win?
Oh yeah, I won easily.
Oh yeah, he says. And
I used the Nas song. Except I flipped it to all you need is one mic. So
very nice.
So many songs there.
Hey, this guy. I'll tell you, he's so talented. He's talented. We ain't talking about this high school sports now. It's the whole gamut right now we're talking about. Well, let's get to a little Shimon now.
Jump on, get on me, all right.
In a boys basketball 2A regional semifinal, Green Central welcomed Hertford County to a gym that holds slightly more than Chesson Gym, which is
really, really tight.
Really tight. Of course, big game, sellouts. Likely a lot of people left out in the cold, this week left out in the warm. It's warm temperatures to see the game. At one time, the North Carolina High School Athletic Association held a regional tournament for winners of what was essentially like 4 sectionals. And there was a luncheon the week of the tournament that was usually held in Greenville or Fayetteville. Camden's boys got there in 2013. They lost to one of those darn charter prep schools we've been discussing, Rocky Mount Prep. But now it's only neutral once you get to a regional final. So a 4th round, that could mean going to a hot box that exceeds fire codes, which doesn't sound so fair, Mont. I see you're over there sweating a little bit.
Yeah, I'm dying right now. Just bringing back bad memories.
Bad memories
Yes,
of the Fairmont. Yes. Here's another point, and Mike can correct me if I'm wrong here. The state still charges $9 for regional semifinal?
That is correct.
It doesn't have to work the game. It doesn't have to do that anymore like it used to. So they're getting that free money. That's free money again. Meanwhile, I can't get the basketball playoff brackets out in a timely manner. Hey, I'm just calling it like it is. Got to get those brackets out. So, to me, bring back the regional tournament or charge less for tickets. Or just keep kicking the can down the road like those charter prep schools. They're taking hold of 1As. Come on now.
Jump on, jump on.
Now, we have talked about this, Mike. You don't like the regional tournament, or you have something different to offer.
I used to like the regional tournament. I'm not someone who goes headlong into a new thing and sign up my seal of approval, before it actually happens. But having seen the way this playoff format's worked 2 years in a row, where you're only going to Fayetteville on that Saturday for the regional final, rather than having the all-week thing, I do prefer this way.
So you're talking about a travel idea and going back and forth.
Yeah, I don't like the week-long thing in Fayetteville. I don't like the luncheon. I don't think you need a luncheon for winning 3 playoff games. I don't think – also, it was kind of pointless. I never went to a regional media luncheon thing because, my gosh, I can talk to those coaches anytime I want to during the week. It's one thing for a state press conference, but another thing for a regional tournament. And, the few years that what broke the old regional tournament, what killed it, was those 2 or 3 years there. And I don't know how much of this weather got up your way, but we had ice and snow in most of North Carolina, and it came right during the conference tournament or right during the opening rounds of the tournament where you're supposed to get in 3 games in a week anyway. And the regional tournament was just too inflexible, could not adjust to have any pushback because you had to book this one venue for 5 nights in a row, Tuesday through Saturday. And so now seeing the way it works, I know you do get in a few situations where, like Green Central, I think messed up. I think they cost themselves a lot of money not moving that game. But they are the only gym in that county probably, so that's also a tough situation too. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, on the whole, I think this way, moving the 4th round to the higher seed, a few times I've seen them move it to a nearby school. Kestrel Heights moved theirs to Panther Creek, which is a 4A school. I think last year, Eastern Alamance, which if you've ever been in that school, one side of the bleachers goes up 5 rows, and the other side goes up 8. That is it. I don't know who had it, what mindset was there when they built some of those Alamance County schools, but Eastern Alamance moved their game to Williams side. And I think that's worked out a lot better than having that week-long thing, especially when some of these 4th-round games are happening with 2 teams who are right in their own backyard. Doesn't always happen, but the last year we had to go to Fayetteville, I think it was Northside and Southwest Onslow or something like that. It was one of those 2 of those Jacksonville schools that are like 8 miles apart, and they drove all the way to Fayetteville to play a 4th-round game. And I understand having that for the regional final, big neutral court, but for a 4th round, I felt like it was unnecessary, especially when they had the late game, 8:30 tip, still had to drive back and go to school the next day.
Oh, good points. Hard to argue with those. I will ask the idea of the state now going to Fayetteville State and Methodist to play these games for the East. Do you know why they left the Crown? Was there like a scheduling conflict? I can't get a straight answer from anybody on this one.
From what I've read, the Fayetteville Observer has done a good job of chronicling it over the years. Earl Vaughn Jr., who retired recently, every year he would chronicle how the Crown was having trouble selling the sponsorships that it needed to also help host. For whatever reason, those 2 facilities can host just about anything any weekend that come in there. And I think it got to a point where they were probably losing money, even with the association paying them for that venue. And getting whatever they could get from concessions. And that's unfortunate because I feel like that was a really great venue. That was much better than going to or putting the girls in J.H. Rose High School in Greenville, to have both venues right across the parking lot from each other. But basically it was a money thing. And I think they probably looked at it after a while and said, look, we can have, a boat show here on this Saturday, and instead of reserving it for high school basketball and losing money or not making as much money. So that's unfortunate. And I think the town of Fayetteville must have done, I hadn't read anything about this, but I would guess. And someone in Fayetteville said, please keep it here. It's good for we want it for our economy. And that's why I lined up in Methodist and Fayetteville State.
Well, I would think those facilities, though, they probably still hold enough that it should be okay. I mean, I haven't been to Methodist, or I've seen FSU's gym, at least in photos. It looks like they would hold enough to maybe on the other side of this, the crowds would be louder. They're smaller venues, but not too small. Is that
right?
Possible?
Yeah, I haven't been either as well, but I do think, same thing here. Like, photos of the Fayetteville State gym look like it's going to be a very festive atmosphere where you got that second deck, and especially between games. That's always the thing that was kind of the trouble at one of the Crown facilities, not the bigger Coliseum, but the smaller arena, was that when people hadn't got out of their seats from the first game and then people were coming in for the next game, you had a whole bunch of people in there just standing around looking for seats. And that, so that's going to be, if that comes up in Fayetteville State or Methodist, I feel like it would just play so much better because that's an actual basketball facility, or maybe it'll be prepared better for that because it's a basketball facility, unlike the Crown Arena, which is mostly kind of a concert, hosting, flea markets and boat shows for most of the year. There are different expos. But I think, in this, I know you guys in your corner and a lot of people in Eastern North Carolina really miss it being in Greenville. And I think, if you're losing the whole good thing about Fayetteville was that you had one parking lot separating all 8 games. Why, if we're going to do it this way, why don't we just go back and have one regional final in Greenville, have the other in Fayetteville, or whoever wants it, and let's just do it that way and split them up the way the West splits up half of their games in Greensboro, half their games in Winston-Salem, because Greenville is such a central location for a lot of the East, not necessarily for my neck of the woods, but people really loved it being in Minges Coliseum, especially from the vibe I always got from northeastern North Carolina and a lot of the eastern towns as well.
Yeah. And that kind of, it makes me think about the football championships this past year. The state waited until about the right near the 4th round to decide what places of Wake Forest, NC State or UNC, what classification championships, where they're going. And I thought the reason for that, and maybe it was, but I just didn't see it, was because, okay, now we see who's in the 3rd round or 4th. Now we can kind of get a better idea of where we should put these championships to help out with travel. However, the Wake County schools are playing in Raleigh. Well, they can walk to NC State, while Edenton is playing in Winston-Salem against Reedsville, which is like 20 minutes away. So maybe I'm kind of comparing these two, but I don't know if there might be a comparison. You could help me with this. But did you see that as a reason why the state did that for football?
The state, some years they decide before the playoffs. I don't know why there was a delay this year. I know that, I think I remember that one of the reasons that they had to do something a little bit differently was, we pushed back the football championships 1 week from the original date because of Hurricane Matthew. So what happened was, I believe Carolina had a basketball game that night, or they had some big event on campus that night. And it was they tried to determine whether or not they could have, or how early they had to start that game on Saturday. Because usually Carolina only hosts 2, Friday night and Saturday. I think that was part of it. I do think they absolutely looked at who was left and tried to make the best guess from there. And I don't know, but usually it somewhat rotates. I would think in a normal schedule, I think it usually rotates who gets the Carolina venues. So it was just odd this year. I think that's part of it is just they're supposed to rotate, but they also kind of look at it because someone's going to be the odd man out. You got 3 classes in one spot, 3 at the other, and just try to see who was left. And so I feel like the 2A was probably the odd man out there and so one of them went to Winston-Salem and one of them went to Raleigh. But yeah, I know it's not. There's no perfect way. I don't know for whatever reason they can't just do it Saturday morning after the East Finals. Mm-hmm. I don't know what steps that have to be made that make it other than game programs. What it really makes that it's impossible to make the call so late. I've heard them say that before, but I don't exactly know why or what goes into it. Because here we are, the regional finals for basketball teams. And for the West, which has to go to 2 different venues, and the East, we now have to go to 2 different venues. They announced, today, Wednesday morning, who was going where after they see who won those games. They didn't make the call in the second round. They already done it. They already did it now. So I don't know. It's a good question, and I think it was definitely unfortunate for Edenton folks because, like I said, Riessel's not that far away at all.
Yeah, because Edenton and South Columbus were in the East Finals, so either team was going to have a long trek to Winston-Salem.
Right.
So you knew that beforehand. So I don't know if it was all mileage driven or not. So we probably won't get a clear answer to that either. I've just been curious ever since December with that. Well, let's move on to Perquimans softball. Has a 3rd new coach in as many years. However, Ricky Stallings, he's a Perquimans guy and is well versed in the area's softball scene. He knows the biggest test for the Lady Pirates is the bond as they try for a 3rd straight year of a 4th round playoff appearance, or of course what they want is a lot more. Let's hear more from Coach Stallings. You're the 3rd coach for Perquimans softball in 3 years. How do you work in with these girls and say, hey, trust me, I'm here. You know me anyway. I'm a Perquimans kind of guy.
You're right. I've been around these girls for a long time, playing travel ball, and very few of them I don't know. Maybe 1 or 2 come out that I didn't know. But it's all the talent's here. It's been here. All I got to do is make them play together, put it together, make them play together, and hit the ball. Keys to the game.
This team's been to the 4th round the last 2 years. I know there's a lot of expectations. Princeton, I think, lost their core senior group that seems to always be a thorn in the side. Or are you trying not to get them to think that far ahead, or what's the process right now?
Well, no, I'm not trying to get them to think that far ahead because I've told them to start with that state championship is what we're shooting for, from the get-go. If we win the conference, it's nice, but I'll be honest with you, we're looking at state championship. That's our goals. Like you said, they've been in the 4th round 2 years in a row, and we're gaining players every year and losing a few and gaining the talent back. So, I feel like we should be there. If I do my job coaching and put it all together, we should be there.
Is this one of the better groups you've seen, Perquimans softball, just core the last couple of years? Obviously, your daughter played as well, so you've seen a lot of talent. Is this one of the better just groups?
I think the pitching. We're getting pitching that we hadn't had in the past. We had to get by with first baseman pitching and shortstops pitching before. Where this year we got 2 legit pitchers and 2 more that can throw some innings. But I would say on that case, yes. In practice, we hit the ball really well. I was just waiting for it to happen in the game, But so yeah, I think the pitchers are getting older. They're juniors. One's a junior, one's a sophomore. So next year we can be better.
What does it mean to have a battery like Caitlin Christian and McCrae Knapp that have pretty much played with each other since they can remember, and now their 3rd straight year starting at Perquimans?
It means a lot. Any coach will tell you that. They got chemistry there, and seems like if anything happens on the field, off the field, they always work it out between themselves, and that's a big thing. Chemistry with the team is a big thing. That's what I preach to them: no drama and put it on the field.
So many conference games. How do you keep getting your team? How do you expect to get your team continually ramped up, especially like Columbia and Creswell, some of those schools that you'll have a much easier time with? You played Manteo here 13-2, and they're supposed to be one of the better softball teams.
It's hard, but I told the girls I've told the girls in the beginning, it's nothing personal against anybody, but until we score 20 runs, we don't take a foot off the gas. We haven't scored 20 yet, but that's our goal, to score 20. You know, not to run the score up, but to hit the ball. You know, if we hit the ball, I want to score 20. If we don't hit the ball, then, you know, we don't steal bases and we don't do all that. But, you know, if we hit the ball, we run the bases.
What's one weakness you need to improve on right now? Everyone's got a few.
Just gelling together the team. You know, I got 3 freshmen out here, and of course, you saw the bunt coverage a while ago. We was off a little bit on that. But, you know, like I say, early season, they all got to get together. You know, that's the only weakness I really see. I mean, it's getting together and knowing everybody beside you, where they're playing and where they're moving to, you know what I mean? Other than that, I really, you know, I don't see a weakness. I mean, to be honest with you. I mean, not to sound cocky or whatever, but I really don't see a weakness anywhere.
You helped out Edenton last year.
Yeah.
Now you're back home.
Yeah.
Little ribbon from the players.
Yeah, no, you know, I feel like all the girls, you know, when I leave them, I like them, and they like me, you know. Just about every single girl. I've never had a girl that gives me any grief. You know, they all come up to you and give you a hug. You know, that's the way it should be.
I got a condo in Manhattan. Baby girl, what's happening?
I don't know if you're like me, Malcolm, but I feel like I'm learning a lot.
Absolutely.
Learning a lot on this show. This is what it's about, learning. Not always being goofy like I like to be, but learning on the show. Let's get some Twitter shouts.
Your tweets go here. Twitter shouts.
Former Camden pitcher Tyler Beal, he's at TBeal, Beyel. Here's what he had to say. Glad to hear my high school got their dub today over Columbia. Of course, Camden, the Coastal 10 champs last year, but lost to Perquimans in the second round of the 1A state playoffs. Another great game between the rivals, but what I was impressed with, Malcolm, Tyler Beal, very complimentary of the Pirates, wishing them well right after that game. You're a senior. You're the guy. You were the area player of the year before. Camden had a high seed. And then you lose at home in the second round, but not just any team. You lost to Perquimans in the second round. Perquimans is having a good time, excited, winning the game, big crowd. And you know that's it for your high school career. That's tough. But very classy him. He went up to each Perquimans player as I watched it after the game. The coaches and single-handedly did it. Not just your usual handshake line when you guys say, good game, good game, good game. He goes up to them, hey, go far, win the state title, do these things. I mean, I was impressed. I was impressed by his professionalism, classy, all that good stuff. So good luck to Tyler Beal. He's pitching at Methodist right now. And of course, Autumn Bateman, you went to her ceremony Wednesday. Mm-hmm. She's going to play volleyball.
Correct.
At Methodist. What else about her?
And also she may have opportunity if everything works out. Maybe her second year she might pick up a softball. She's currently on the softball team now with Perquimans. So
very good. Well, we encourage all of you to tweet about any NC sports, and yours might get put on the air. If you got thoughts, you got questions, we'll try to answer them. We'll put them on the show. Just use the hashtag NENC Sports. Colleges, real quick. Mid-Atlantic Christian women finished second in the Chesson Classic to complete their season. Malcolm, you were at the championship game last Saturday. 11 wins for the program. That's some improvement. Do you see a base here, something you can grow with?
Yeah, they got some pieces with Aaliyah McNeil and Erica Vincent, 2 guards in the backcourt. Just got a nice little core there. It's just as it always is with MACU, can they keep their budding stars?
And of course, McNeil, as you talked about, Tierra Lester were named to the USCAA All-American group. Of course, that's United States Collegiate Athletic Association. Lester was honorable mention, but McNeil also on the second team. ECSU softball going to be in your neck of the woods, Mike, at the Cary Softball Complex. Is that the official name for it?
Yeah, I think that's the one right next to Middle Creek High School. It's actually Middle Creek plays on the Cary field. There's like 4 fields right there together.
Yeah, well, there's going to be a lot of colleges playing there this weekend. ECSU is one of them. They're playing Millersville, Mansfield, I think Bluefield State. Got a number. It's one of those roundup weekends for college softball where you just play so many games in a row, your head's spinning, I would think. And, of course, Lady Vikings 0-6 lost a doubleheader last Sunday to Salem International, outscored 37-8. I'm not sure, Malcolm, this team wins a game this year other than maybe Lincoln, because Lincoln has struggled that they cut their season short.
Right.
Last year they were struggling. Only had 9 players at ECSU this past Sunday against Salem International. You need 9.
Yeah.
I know that math. You need 9 to play. They had 9. It was a struggle to say the least. We've been thinking about an idea of this combined record for ECSU athletics this year, and fans of ECSU not going to like it. Football, men's and women's basketball, volleyball, softball, and girls tennis. You combine all those records, and it's probably going to be about 17 and 103.
And you're looking at the possibility that football that only plays 10 games has a third of your wins.
Well, and other people say, yeah, but football is a cash sport. So
yeah,
I'm going with the slimmest of positivity you can find out of this. 17-103. Ugh, yikes, to say the least. Well, we can close it up now. I think we've covered a lot of ground, and very appreciative to be able to cover this ground. Remember to follow us on Twitter, NENC Sports, ONOBX, Malcolm.
And Malcolm_Shields.
And Mike.
JMV Preps.
Or Preps Now.
Yeah.
Well, if you're listening to us on WRVS 89.9, we probably went beyond our radio time, which is fine. Got a lot of good information in. And when I say it's fine, it's because if you're listening on YouTube, you're going to get the whole show.
Yeah.
And the YouTube version of the show comes right out, usually right after the first airing on WRVS. Just search WRVS 89.9 or NENC Sports. For Owen Hassel, Malcolm Shields, and Mike, thank you for being on the show. We'd love to have you on again.
Absolutely. Please, let's do that. That was a lot of fun tonight.
What's the NENC? And don't you see, athletes live here.
NENC Sports Radio Show is produced at the WRVS-FM studios on the campus of Elizabeth City State University.